Welcome everybody. This is meeting number 3, Monday, March 8th, 2021. We're starting at 5:30 p.m. tonight. Notice to the public that due to the efforts to contain the spread of COVID-19 and to protect all individuals, the council chambers will not be open to the public to attend council meetings until further notice. Submission of public comments, virtual attendance has been made by public can submit their comments for matters that are on the agenda or request to attend the virtual meeting as an attendee by emailing jdyson@westlincoln.ca by March 8th, 2021 before 4:30 p.m. Email comments submitted will be considered as public information and read into the public record. The meeting will be recorded and available through the township website within approximately 48 hours of the meeting unless otherwise noted. First order of business, is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest and or conflict of interest regarding to the confidential matters? Not seeing any. Under confidential matters, we have a recommendation that this portion of the meeting be closed to the public to consider the following pursuant to section 239(2) of the Municipal Act 2001. Under 2.1, we have Township Solicitor Tom Richardson and Director of Planning and Building Brian Treble. Legal enforcement matter, natural severance, Caster Center. Applicable closed session exemptions, B, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality and or local board. And 2, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. And then under 2.2, we have a bylaw enforcement officer, Tiana Dominic, and Director of Planning, Brian Treble. Legal enforcement matter, quarterly bylaw update. Applicable closed session exemptions being litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, the security of the property of the municipality or local board, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. Under 2.3, we also have planner number 2, Garrett Borma, and Director of Planning and Building, Brian Treble. Legal enforcement matter, confidential information report number PD-29-2021, South Grimsby Road 21, site plan update. Applicable closed session exemptions, B, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, the security of property of the municipality or local board, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. And 2.4, we have Director of Planning and Building Brian Treble, legal solicitor-client privilege, confidential recommendation report number PD-028-21, waive change of condition fee file number B03/2020 WL. Applicable closed session exemptions, B, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunal affecting the municipality or local board, and advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. And under 2.5, bylaw enforcement officer Tiana Dominic and Director of Planning and Building Brian Treble, legal solicitor-client privilege, confidential informative report number PD-034-21, summary of cleanup costs, John Street, Casterville. Applicable closed session exemptions, B, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunal affecting the municipality or local board, and advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. And that is, I guess that is it for that. So I guess at this point, can I have somebody move that? I have Councilor Ganan, and I guess we'll get somebody to second that. I have Councilor Braderick. And so at this point, I'm going to call the vote to go into closed sessions to discuss the following that I just read. So all those in favor? Okay, that passes. So at this point, we are now in closed session.
Mr. Chair, just before you go, I just want to say I have no disclosures of pecuniary interest. Sorry for being late. I was waiting for 15 minutes, but I was in different Zoom invites, so I finally found the right one. So apologize for my tardiness. Well, it wasn't my tardiness, but my ineptitude. See you in closed.
Thank you for disclosing that, and not a problem. Because I'm going to recommend that this committee meeting does now resume in open session. Oh, sorry, I guess I have to ask for a mover and a seconder to open us back up into open session. So if I could get Councilor Ganan and Councilor Trombetta, all those in favor of going back into open?
Support.
That passes. So we are now, this committee meeting does now resume in the open session of the hour of 6:32 p.m. We're going to deal with item P21-21, Township Solicitor Tom Richardson and Andrea Mennel, and Director of Planning and Building Brian Treble, legal enforcement matter, natural severance, Caister Center, recommendation that the township staff and legal counsel be and are hereby authorized to proceed as directed in closed session regarding legal enforcement matters. Natural severance, Caister Center, prior to ratification of council due to the requirement or required timeline of the township legal counsel response. And I guess we got to vote on these three separate times. So at this point, I'll ask for a mover. I have Councillor Ganan and a seconder, Councillor Trombetta again. All those in favor? All those opposed? And that passes. Item P22-21, Bylaw Enforcement Officer Tiana Dominic and Director of Planning and Building Brian Treble, legal enforcement matter, quarterly bylaw update. Sorry, let me just. So if I could just confirm so that for the clerk, do we have to vote on each of these independently?
Just whenever you have a recommendation, Councilor.
Okay.
Chair.
All right. So am I just reading those for the record right now, and then I'd go into P20, the next one right after, because the next one has a recommendation.
You can go into the next one. Yes.
Okay. So then item P23-21, Planner 2, Garrett Borma, and Director of Planning and Building, Brian Treble, legal solicitor, client privilege, confidential information report, PD-29-2021-9629, Regional Road 20, site plan update number 2, file number 2100-012-19. And the recommendation is that report PD 29-2021 dated March 8th, 2021, relating to confidential information report, site plan update number 2, file number 2100-012-19 be received, and that a new site plan authorizing bylaw be passed to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign a site plan agreement with just the property owners only, and have an agreement, have the agreement registered on title. So I guess at this, I would call for a mover and a seconder on this. I have Mayor Bilsma, seconder Councillor Ganan. All those in favor? Okay, that passes unanimously. And we're going to move to item 2.4, which is item P24-21, Director of Planning and Building Brian Treble, legal solicitor, client privilege, confidential recommendation, report PD-028-21, waive change of condition fee, file number BO3/2020 WL, Casterville United Church. And the recommendation there is that report PD-28-2021 regarding confidential recommendation report, waive change of condition fee, file number BO3/2020 WL, Casterville United Church, dated March 8th, 2020.
You got some Canadian Tire parts in
Mr.
there.
Chair, you're clipping a little bit.
Because I have a recommendation, so I'm told that I need a mover for that.
You sound like a robot, Mr. Chair. You got to start over. We missed the one.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, try again.
Can you hear me?
Oh, you got some Canadian Tire parts in there, man.
Okay. Can you hear me any better? Just to confirm.
You might just trying sound on for a second and see if you can get through the resolution.
Oh, he left. Gone.
Maybe.
Okay,
come
yes.
on.
Let's just give him a sec. Oh, there he's back in.
The rural guy's got better internet connection tonight. Look at that.
I know, guys, eh? We're doing good.
Is that what they call rebooting?
Yeah. But sometimes if it does
just
happen,
kicked
just
me.
stop
Zoom
the
just
video.
kicked me out.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Okay.
I think it's the
Mr.
first
Chair.
time I've had that. Does that happen again?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So I kind of was zipping along there. I think we were on item P24-2021. Do you need me to read the recommendation again?
Yes.
All right. Do I have a mover or a seconder? I have Mayor Bilsma, seconder Councillor Yonker. All those in favor? Okay, that passes unanimously. And then last but not least, we have item P25-21. Can everybody see me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I just saw a bunch of frozen hands there. Okay. Feel free to just yell out if I go frozen on you. I can seem to hear you guys. All right. All right. So Director of Planning and Building, Brian Treblery, Legal Solicitor, Client Privilege Information Report number PD-034-21, Summary of Cleanup Cost, John Street, Casterville. Recommendation is that report PD-34-2021 regarding confidential information report, John Street, Summary of Cleanup Cost, dated March 8th, 2021, be received for information purposes only. So I don't believe I need to hold a vote on that. So clerk, if you could please confirm that my understanding of that is correct, we can move forward.
Or to you, Mr. Chair, you do need a mover and a seconder for that.
Okay, thank you. So if I can get someone to move that. Councillor Gannon, seconder Councillor Rayner, all those in favor? Okay, that passes unanimously as well. So at this point, I'm gonna go on to number 3, which is, I guess, introducing myself. So I'm Chair Councilor William Riley. Prior to commencing with the Planning, Building, Environmental Committee agenda, I'm reading something that I don't need to. Due to the efforts to contain the spread of COVID-19 to protect all individuals, the council chambers will not be open to the public to attend standing and council meetings until further notice. The public may submit comments for matters that are on the agenda to jdyson@westlincoln.ca before 4:30 p.m. on the day of the meeting. Comments submitted will be considered as public information and read into the public record. This meeting will be recorded and available on the Township website within 48 hours of this meeting, unless noted otherwise. At this time, I'm going to ask if there's any disclosure of pecuniary interest and or conflict of interest. Not seeing any. We're going to move to the public meetings. So right now we have a zoning by under 5.1, we have zoning bylaw amendment. And I'm going to apologize for saying this wrong. I think it's Fileria Holdings Inc. file number 1601-003-21. And that the Holdings Inc. owner for property legally described as on concession 8, part land 12, part 3, and part 1 of 30R 5659, formerly in the township of South Grimsby, now in the township of West Lincoln, regional municipality of Niagara, municipally known as 6850 Yonge Street, file number 1601-003-21. So at this point, I will let, oh, maybe I have the wrong thing open. So hold on, I just read that. So 1 second here. So as we go into that, I should mention that this is a public meeting to consider a zoning bylaw amendment application submitted by Fileria Holdings Inc. file number 1601-003-21. I'm going to apologize if I'm saying that first part wrong. So someone can correct me at the appropriate time. I feel like that's coming. The Planning Act requires in section 3412 that before passing a zoning bylaw amendment, council must hold at least one public meeting for the purpose of informing the public in respect of the amendment. The purpose of the public meeting is to receive comments and answer questions from the public regarding the amendment to the Township of West Lincoln zoning bylaw. We stress that at no point, or not at this point, no decision has been made on the proposed amendment, and only comments received will be taken into account by council and their consideration. The Planning Act also requires through section 3413 that council advise the public that if a person or public body does not make any oral submissions at a public meeting or make any written submissions to the Township of West Lincoln before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of council for the Township of West Lincoln to the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal, also known as LPATs. Would the deputy clerk please advise the method and dates by which notice of the public meeting was given?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Proper notice was given by way of mail distribution to neighboring properties within 120 meters of the subject property on February 10th, 2021, as well as yellow sign posted on the subject property.
Excellent, thank you. Is the applicant or their authorized agent present to speak to this application?
Can I speak to this?
Sorry, who?
So I'm Lisa Kallenberg, owner of Foliera.
Perfect. If you could just state your name and address for the official record, and then you can proceed.
Okay, do you want our business address or home address?
Just go with your business address.
Okay, so the one in question here, well, our main address is in Beamsville, 4655 Beamsville. The property in question is another property of ours at 6850 Yonge Street in Smithville.
Okay.
My name is Lisa Kallenberg, and I'm owner. My husband and I are owners.
Mr. Chair, we usually, I think, go through the planner first. I'm not
Okay.
sure what happened there, but
I'm just Oh, that's actually my mistake. Completely. So I do apologize, Lisa. I scrolled a little too quickly on my my sheet here. So I will ask planner number 2, Madison Edsel, please explain the purpose and reason for the proposed zoning bylaw amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. An application for rezoning has been made by Brian Gacky on behalf of John and Lisa Cowenberg for an agricultural property municipally known as 6850 Young Street, known as Foliero Holdings. The application proposes to rezone the entire 10.29 hectares of land from agricultural to agricultural with a site-specific exception. The site-specific exception will permit 2 farm dwelling units on the property to house greenhouse employees in addition to an existing unit within the greenhouse. The current zoning bylaw permits a maximum of only 1 farm dwelling unit per property. The farm dwelling units are proposed to be 16 feet by 80 feet in size and should be able to accommodate approximately 7 workers per unit. Foliero Holdings has already been approved for 10 offshore workers who arrive at various times throughout the 2021 year. They also have a pending application with the Foreign Agricultural Resource Management Services for an additional 7 offshore workers. All offshore workers must leave Canada by December 15th of the same year. The proposed farm dwelling units will be connected to a new septic system, which will be further discussed through the site plan stage. This application complies with the agricultural policies outlined in the provincial policy statement and the provincial growth plan. The regional official plan and township's official plan state that additional agricultural related dwellings, whether these dwellings are permanent or modular in nature, may be permitted without severance for full-time farm help where the size and nature of the agricultural operation makes the employment of such help necessary, and where such additional dwelling does not have a significant effect on the tillable area of the farm or its viability. A farm help house shall not be eligible for severance from the farm operation in the future, and the owner shall sign an undertaking to this effect. The Township Building Department, Public Works Department, and Niagara Region have no comments at this time. The Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority requested a site layout to review. As the proposed farm dwellings are outside of their regulated lands, they stated they have no comments. Staff have received 1 public comment from a neighbor for this application. These comments outline concerns about the location of the dwelling units, how many workers, and what they will be hooked up to. The applicants have addressed these concerns and the resident appears to be satisfied. Overall, township staff have completed the preliminary review of the application against applicable planning policies, and a recommendation report will be prepared following this public meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Madison. All right, so at this point, I'll go back to Lisa. Very sorry for that confusion there. At this point, you can speak to the application.
Okay, I guess it's just to understand the next steps. It was everything that was said, we've heard, and we agree with all of that. And I think we've met all of everything we needed to meet. Just wondering what the next steps are to this amendment.
Okay, I'll go to the Director of Planning to see if you'd like to address that. So Brian, if you could.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What will happen is we'll go through tonight's public meeting and see if there are any further comments from the public. As Maddie mentioned, we have spoken to one of the neighbors already, and generally he is satisfied with what's proposed. Following tonight, following the public process, we'll consult with agencies to make sure we have all of the comments that are relevant to this application. If everything seems to be in order, we'll bring back a recommendation report next month at our planning committee meeting. I think it's April 12th, if I remember correctly. And at that point, the recommendation report would be deliberated on by this committee. If committee is supportive, then council would ratify it, pass the zoning bylaw, and start the 20-day appeal period at that point. So process will take into May by the time it's finalized.
Okay. Okay. I think we weren't completely understanding of the length of the process. We understood we needed to, or the town needed to reach out to all departments. We had to put a sign up on the property, and then we were expected to have this meeting today, see if anybody by way of, I guess, mail or written written comments. There was one, as you mentioned, but I'm understanding now there could be other public comments tonight.
That is
Possibly.
correct. That is correct. This is our public meeting, so the public gets a chance to
Okay.
speak to things. And so had we been in chambers, it would have been the same thing virtually. This is just the next step of that process.
Okay, and then if there were concerns, or let's say no concerns, then you still need to go on to another meeting in a month from now.
So yeah, so what basically happens at this point is this is our chance to ask questions. I think it's probably been best described by the council as like a fact-finding mission. We kind of get a public gets to share their feedback, staff then takes it, and then down the road they'll create a technical report, and that report comes back to council. At that point, not too much can really change in terms of public feedback. This is the public portion to contribute. If there's going to be contributions from the public, this is the time for that. When that report comes later, council could still ask clarification comments, but obviously that will be based on the direction that's coming from staff, whether or not they're recommending it or not recommending, and the reasons why within that. And then council will make a decision whether or not to support it or oppose it. And that will be really the final moment before you have to worry about everything else that follows after. So tonight is really just a chance for the public to kind of ask their questions and share their input. And then from there will be another report. But that is after staff takes all that information in together, digest it, compare it with all the other bylaws and planning policies, and seeing where it fits with, within many different facets within our planning process, so ensuring that it's in compliance with everything else. So this is just kind of like the first real big hurdle for you. After that, it does get easier with each part that follows.
So April 12th, what would be decided on April 12th?
So I'll go to the director, but basically that will be I don't want you to necessarily hold that date. I believe our director was giving you an estimated date. For unforeseen reasons, it could get pushed back another month or so. I think the goal is to have some kind of technical report ready for April 12th, and within that would be all the findings. So director, I don't know if you want to, if there's something more specific you could explain to that.
Through you, Mr. Chair, there are likely two pieces that will come forward at the next meeting, which you're correct, Mr. Chair. I'm speculating it'll be next meeting of committee, which, if I've got my head on right, is April the 12th. The two pieces that could come forward that night are the zoning bylaw for recommendation of approval, as well as the site plan. There is a site plan requirement, and we could do both at the same time. So I think that's the plan of staff right now, assuming everything goes fine tonight. The only other thing, if I may, Mr. Chair, just add to the comments that you were making just a few minutes ago, there is a provision in the Planning Act that does not allow this committee to make a decision in the public meeting. So all we can do in the public meeting, as you described, is fact finding, and no decision can get made in this meeting.
Thank you. Is there anything else, Lisa?
I think so. Just after that particular meeting, I understand April 12th, and then it could go on to a further meeting.
Well, so yeah, just to clarify, like April 12th, what I was saying there is that that's if staff are able to, nothing else comes in the way. And we're talking about, like, as you know, the staff has 1,000 things that are happening at once. So that's just an estimation of when, the earliest it would be back to this committee in that form to address those particular things. But anything that would follow that, whatever decisions took place on April 12th, if that happens to work out, then from there should determine, if there's a reason to send it back or relook at stuff, that would be addressed then. So to kind of give you an idea of what would follow after, when he's talking about May, is if everything's approved and everything gets cleaned up by April 12th, then you probably look for the 20-day appeal period is the one last chance. Should someone in the community disagree with the decision of committee or council, then they have 20 days to appeal that decision. And that is just that's an if, right? So that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen. They just have the 20 days under the Planning Act to challenge the decision of committee and council. So if everything goes as planned and there's no issues and nobody appeals it, then 20 days after that meeting, you would be, I guess, for lack of a better way of phrasing it, in the clear. And so that would be why May would be probably the earliest you would see it kind of being passed through all of that stuff. But should someone appeal it for whatever reason, then that is where another, I don't know if it's a meeting or what would take place. I guess it's LPAT that would probably get involved at that point. And then that's a whole different area that you would have to. I don't think you have to worry just yet for that. I think at this point, we'll just kind of let everyone kind of ask their questions and see where it goes. This is almost like a formality in a lot of situations. A lot of people just kind of ask questions if they're curious, if they have questions or concerns. This is the time for them to share it, and then staff just kind of uses that information when they go and prepare their future reports and recommendations.
Okay, that's fine. I misunderstood that because I thought that the public's input, they had up until now for this particular meeting. I think the deadline was March something. And then that was their deadline, but actually that's not true. It's going to get opened up again once you give the technical report.
So Brian, I'll let you go and explain just in case I'm not explaining it too clearly.
Through you, Mr. Chair. No, you're doing a great job, but just the one piece of advice that will probably help put the applicant at ease a little bit. Tonight is the formal public meeting, and if people don't speak tonight or say their piece tonight, then their chances to appeal and be successful in an appeal are pretty much nil. So we will have a very good sense after tonight what things look like. Yes, there's time that we have to go through, but tonight's the night. If the public don't speak tonight, they lose their chance for appeal effectively.
Yes, and I guess just to clarify, I think I kind of confused the two. Tonight we get the technical report, and the potential April 12th date would be the recommendation on behalf of staff. So at that point, the public doesn't really get a chance to speak specifically to any changes in that. That would just be staff coming to council saying, hey, we support this and this is why, or we don't support this and this is why. And then at that point, it's up to committee or to make those findings then, or to make that decision then.
Okay. Is it fair to ask, is there something that could, other than the public, because we don't know what can arise there. Is there anything that you see now that could be an issue?
So what I'm gonna suggest is there's not really anything anybody can say can and can't be an issue. We haven't heard from the public yet, and there's no decision that's being made. This is honestly just it's fresh to our eyes, right? We just kind of get it on Friday. We get a chance to read through it once. There's nothing that's going to be expressed clearly other than looking for clarity. I would say that question's probably going to be revealed through staff's recommendation down the road. So again, no decisions can be made tonight. You're not going to know whether it's approved or not tonight by any means. That would come closer to April based on the recommendation. So right now I would just, unless you have any questions, I would sit back, listen to what feedback or what exchange happens, and I wouldn't necessarily trouble yourself too much with being concerned what may or may not be, because we're just asking questions about it. Again, there's nothing this committee is going to decide tonight. We got to make our decisions based on staff's recommendation, which would come in April.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Brian Gacky, do you have any comments, Brian?
No, it's pretty clear. Thanks, Lisa.
Okay.
Thank you, Lisa. All right, so I'm going to move now. Make sure I'm on the right page here, to the public submissions. So are there any oral or written submissions from anyone present on the Zoom meeting regarding the proposed zoning bylaw amendment? I would like to stress that this may be the only public meeting held with respect to this application. Therefore, if any members of the public that are in attendance at this Zoom public meeting would like to make comments and or provide a written comments, they should do so now by using one of the two options. Using a computer or smartphone, you can select the raise your hand control that can be found in the Zoom options list displayed on your screen. Or your second option is using if you're using a landline or telephone number, you're going to dial *9. This will notify staff that you have raised your hand. Once you've been acknowledged to speak, please unmute your microphone. It is important to provide your comments below. It's important to provide your comments now if you have not done so in writing or verbally, as LPAT may not consider comments made during any other council and or committee meetings. Also, anyone wishing to speak are required to unmute their microphones to talk, and once they are finished, we do request that the microphone is muted. Prior to speaking, please provide your name and your address for the record. So at this point, I'm going to open this up to any members in the gallery, the virtual gallery here. Does anybody like to speak to this? So I'm not seeing anyone. I'm going to confirm with IT. Roberta, do you see anyone interested in speaking to this?
I'm seeing none, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I'll just give another half beat here as I get my screen prep. So at this point, I'm still not seeing any. So I'm going to ask if any members of committee have any oral or written submissions on the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. Please note that members of committee must make their comments now, as LPAT may not consider comments made any other council or committee meeting. Any member of council wishing to speak are required to unmute their microphone and talk. And once they are finished, they should mute their microphone again. So committee, do we have any questions or comments? All right, not seeing or hearing anything. Please be advised that technical report is being considered by committee this evening, that a recommendation report will be forthcoming to a future committee and or council meeting. Please be advised that once committee and or council has made a decision with respect to the zoning bylaw amendment, and if approved by council, a notice of their passing will be circulated with an appeal period. If you wish to be notified of council's decision tonight, or not tonight, at that time, please ensure that you email the township clerk, Joanne Shimei, at jshimei@westlincoln.ca. Anyone who is interested in observing council and or committee discussions about a particular bylaw should not solely rely on mail notices and thus miss the opportunity to attend applicable meetings. It is suggested that you watch the township website for posting of agendas to review items that will be discussed at a council and or committee meetings. Agendas for meetings are proposed on the township's website after 4 p.m. on the Friday prior to the meeting. Additionally, meeting schedules are also noted on the township website for the public view. If you wish to receive notices by email, it is suggested that you contact the township clerk to advise your request and include your email address along with your mailing address and your phone number. So at this point, I'm going to adjourn this. This public meeting with respect to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is now concluded at the hour of 6:58 p.m.
Thank you.
No problem. All right, sorry, let me just switch windows here. All right, so moving to the second public meeting. I'm gonna so this second public meeting. So I got two screens open here. I just want to make sure I'm reading the right one. All right, so we'll go to there. All right, so this is a public meeting to consider an official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment application submitted for Greek Association and Mars Homes, Smithville West, Inc. 6659, our Regional Road 20, file number 1701-001-21, and file number 1601-004-21. The Planning Act in Section 3412 and Section 1715 that before passing a zoning bylaw amendment and official plan amendment, council must hold at least one public meeting for the purpose of informing the public in respect of the amendments. The purpose of this public meeting is to receive comments and answer questions from the public regarding the amendment to the Township of West Lincoln official plan and zoning bylaw. We stress that at this point, no decision has been made on the proposed amendments, and any comments received will be taken into account by council and their consideration. The Planning Act also requires through Section 3413 and under Ontario Regulation 543/06 that council advise the public that if a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of West Lincoln before the bylaws pass, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of council for the Township of West Lincoln to the local planning tribunal, also known as LPAT. So at this point, would the deputy clerk please advise the method and dates by which notice of the public meeting was given?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before I read the methods and dates in which public notice was given, I just want to make note that, Mr. Marcus, you're on the screen twice. I'm not too sure if you forward your attendee invite to somebody, but if there's two separate people, I don't know if they want to change the name so it doesn't show Jared Marcus twice.
Thank you. Yeah, that's probably the client. He didn't have a link, so I sent him mine so he could log in and pay attention.
No problem. I just wanted to clarify that. So if anybody was asking.
Thank you.
Okay, so through you, Mr. Chair, proper notice was given by way of mail distribution to individual property owners within 120 meters of both the subject property and the Mars Smithville West Inc. property. Additionally, a public notice sign was placed on the subject property as well as advertised on the township's website.
Awesome. Will planner number 2, Garrett Burma, please explain the purpose and reason for the proposed official plan and zoning bylaw amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. An application for official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment, and consent has been made by Mars Homes and the Greek Association for the property located at 6659 Regional Road 20. This property is located directly north of the new St. Martin School, south of the CP rail line, and Immediately abutting to the east is the Mars Homes Smithville West property. It's just under 2 hectares in size, or 5 acres, and contains the Greek Association building. The property is currently designated and zoned institutional in the Township of West Lincoln official plan and zoning bylaw. Mars Homes Smithville West Inc. and the Greek Association have submitted applications for official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment, and consent to sever off 0.56 hectares of land from the back of 6659 Regional Road 20 and have it merged onto the Mars Homes Smithville West property. Since the property is intended to be used for single-family residential dwellings, approximately 15 lots, the official plan designation and zoning must be amended. The statutory meeting for the official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment is as well an opportunity for the public to comment on the proposed revised draft plan of subdivision, which will now include this 0.56 hectares of land. The actual consent application is set to go before the Committee of Adjustment on March 31st. To date, the township has not received any comments from the public. Agency comments received so far include comments from the Region of Niagara, the NPCA, and CP Rail. And the township will continue to collect agency comments and public comments and include them in a future recommendation report. As the clerk, deputy clerk has mentioned, the applicant's agent is here today, Jared Marcus from IBI Group, and he also has a brief presentation for the public and committee.
You. And so I guess I'll let the applicant, I guess I'll let Jared, if you'd like to speak to this, feel free.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have the presentation, so I guess just click the share screen and we're good to go. All right, can everyone see my screen there?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of council, members of public, if they're present either on this or watching on another method. My name is Jared Marcus. I'm from IBI Group. I'm here on behalf of my client, Mars Homes Smithville West, Inc., regarding the official plan and zoning bylaw amendment applications for 6659 Regional Road 20. The subject lands are located generally in the northwest of Smithville. They do have frontage on Regional Road 20, which on this aerial context map you can see running east to west from the top right or top left to the bottom right corner. The subject lands broadly are outlined in red on the screen, but the lands subject to the application are delineated by that dashed red line, and that's just the northerly approximate 30 meters of that broader subject lands. So the subject lands, the broader subject lands have a frontage of approximately 120 meters on Regional Road 20 and an area of 1.96 hectares. And what I'll refer to as the subject lands moving forward have an area of 0.56 hectares and are approximately 30 meters depth and 30 meters deep, and will have a frontage of approximately 200 meters on a future road, which you'll see in a moment. The subject lands currently just have the one structure on it, the one-story brick Greek community center, and a portion of the subject lands are arable fields, and the rest is just manicured lawn. This next slide shows the context within the Northwest Quadrant secondary plan. As you can see, the subject lands are designated as institutional, which only recognizes the existing uses and requires an official plan amendment for any type of redevelopment. We wanted to note that the initial drafts of the secondary plan did show a variety of residential land uses for the subject lands, but at the time it was the owner's desire to leave the lands as institutional. Also on this image, you'll see that the Mars Homes subdivision is outlined in green just to show the context of the two applications side by side. Next slide shows the zoning, township zoning. It is zoned institutional, which permits the existing uses, and any residential uses would require an amendment. For project chronology, how we got here, a pre-consultation meeting was held with township and agencies to review the request for official plan amendment, zoning amendment, and severance in December. And we were able to compile and submit formal applications in the beginning of February, and township turned that application around and circulated for review very quickly the following week. And that review is ongoing, as you heard from Mr. Boroma. Statutory public meeting is the next step, which is tonight. And of course, following up from here, we have further review and council recommendation in the future. And now the official plan amendment application is as simple as it sounds. We're redesignating these institutional lands to low density residential to permit a maximum of 16 single detached dwellings. Mr. Boroma mentioned 15. It's just right now the sketch shows 15. We've figured it could be a maximum of 16, but the final count is still to be determined. When you look at the Northwest Quadrant secondary plan, the specific land use policies applicable to institutional contain the following clause, which requires that any redevelopment of the subject lands have general regard for the land use and road patterns identified in the secondary plan. And the next slide shows the context again within the secondary plan, focusing on the subject lands in red. And that shows that we are proposing to front onto that Street G within the secondary plan, which connects east-west through development. So we're not proposing any changes there. The broader land use context within the secondary plan, you have some mix of medium and low density designations along that street, which would permit either street fronting single detached lots or street townhouses, as well as block townhouses. So we feel that the continuation of that that low density residential land use pattern has regard for the existing proposed street pattern and land use within the secondary plan. And my screen's a little bit slow, and now my lights went out. I was hoping that wouldn't happen. Next one shows the context within the adjacent Thrive or Mars Homes subdivision. As you can see on this screen, the street pattern has remained the same from the secondary plan to the draft plan stage. My clients, through their other applications, are proposing a slight difference in land use, where the secondary plan proposed some medium density. They're proposing more single detached or low density residential along that street pattern, but we felt it was still within the context of that plan. And so the proposed rezoning tonight or redesignation tonight would match that land use pattern and road pattern that's proposed. So this just illustrates how this fits within that plan. So the zoning bylaw amendment, again, very simply rezoned from institutional to low density R3. And we're not asking for any site specific mods to that particular zone tonight. All the schematic lotting shows that the lot widths and the lot areas will match the existing zone requirements. This next slide, again, just shows the context of the subject lands with the adjacent development. So the main area we're focusing on is the checkerboard pattern through the middle of the site. That's the proposed R3 zoning through the Mars Homes subdivision. So we would be matching that R3 zone, but we wouldn't be asking for any modifications in this case. So all these provisions are, just for context, are what exists in the zoning bylaw today. And just for context, again, to wrap it up with the severance applications we talked about, we are severing that approximate half acre off the rear portion or the north portion of the broader community lands. That would leave approximately 1.4 hectares for the community center to continue to exist as it does today. If we're approved for the severance and these applications, it would accommodate up to 16 detached lots, but that final lot fabric would be through a amendment to the subdivision plan. And as Mr. Borma said, the severance will be heard on March 31st. And this sketch just shows what was submitted for the severance application. Again, the red being the severed, blue being the retained portion of lands, and the red having frontage on that proposed street through the subdivision. And the proposed lotting context, this is what was submitted with the pre-consultation application, but again, will be reviewed further with the revised subdivision amendment application. And so that's our presentation. The last slide is just our conclusion that in our professional opinion, the proposal is consistent with the provincial policy statement in the growth plan, conforms to the regional official plan, and conforms to the township of West Lincoln's official plan by having regard for the general land use and road patterns identified in the secondary plan. And so that's our presentation tonight. If there are any questions from this committee or members of the public, we'd be happy to try to answer those.
Okay, thank you. I'll ask you to take the screen share off right now. It's just easier for us to be able to see it all. And then before we go to committee, I wasn't sure if your the other Jared account, if they wanted to contribute anything or if they're here just to watch.
I believe just to watch, but
speak up now or I'll just move on. So I'm not hearing anything, so that's fine. Not to put them on the spot. Anyways, so at this point, I'm going to ask the public, are there any oral or written submissions from anyone present on the Zoom meeting regarding the proposed official plan and zoning bylaw amendment? I'd like to stress that this may be the only public meeting held with respect to this application. Therefore, if any members of the public that are in attendance at this Zoom meeting would like to make a comment and or provide written comments, they should do so now by using one of the two options. If they're using a computer or a smartphone, you're going to select the raise your hand control that can be found on the Zoom options list displayed on your screen. Or your second option will be if you're using a landline or telephone, you're going to dial the *9. This will notify staff that you have raised your hand. Once you've been acknowledged to speak, please unmute your microphone. And it's important to provide your comments now. And if you have not done so in writing or verbally, as LPAT may not consider comments made during any other council or committee meeting. Also, anyone wishing to speak are required to unmute their microphone to talk, and once they are finished, they should mute their microphone. Prior to speaking, please provide your name and address for the record. So at this point, I'm going to go to the virtual gallery here and see if anybody would like to speak to this. And so I'm just going to confirm with our IT. Roberta, do you see anybody? Because I do not see anybody.
Seeing none, Mr. Chair.
All right, so at this point, I'm going to move forward to members of committee. And do any members of committee have any oral or written submissions on the proposed official plan and zoning bylaw amendment? Please note that members of committee must make their comments now, as LPAT may not consider comments made at any other council or committee meeting. Any members of council wishing to speak are required to unmute their microphones, and then once they're finished, we do a request that you remute your microphone. So at this point, any members of committee have any questions or comments? Quiet bunch tonight. Excellent. So at this point, please be advised, excuse me, please be advised that a technical report is being considered by the committee this evening, and that a recommendation report will be forthcoming to a future committee and or council meeting. Please be advised that once committee and or council has made a decision with respect to the official planning zoning bylaw amendment, and if approved by council, a notice of their passing will be circulated with an appeal period. If you wish to be notified by council decision, we do ask that you email the township clerk, Joanne Shime, at jshime@westlincoln.ca. Anyone who is interested in observing council and or committee discussion about a particular bylaw should not solely rely on the mailed out notices, thus miss the opportunity to attend applicable meetings. It is suggested that you watch the township website for posting of agendas to review items that will be discussed at council and or committee meetings. The agendas for meetings are posted on the township website after 4 p.m. on the Friday prior to the meeting. Additionally, meetings scheduled are as noted on the township website for public view. If you wish to receive notices by email, it is suggested that you contact the township clerk to advise your request and include your email along with your mailing address and your phone number. So at this point, I'm not seeing anybody else who's put their hand up. So this public meeting with respect to the proposed official plan and zoning bylaw amendment is now concluded at the hour 7:16 p.m.
Thank you for your time.
No problem. Thank you, Jared. All right, so just moving windows around here. So I'm going to move to items or number 6, change in orders of items on the agenda. I don't see anybody want to change any items in the agenda, the order thereof. Not seeing any. We have no appointments tonight. So at this point, I'm going to ask the public, this is the request to address items on the agenda. 1 hour in total shall be allocated for this section of the agenda, and each individual person shall only be provided 5 minutes to address their issue. With some exceptions may apply, a response may not be provided, and the matter may be referred to staff. A person who wishes to discuss a planning application or a matter that can be appealed will be permitted to speak for 10 minutes. It says the chair to inquire IT has, if any members of the public in attendance virtually on the Zoom call to wish to address specific items on night agenda is permitted under section 6.7 of the procedural bylaw. Okay, so I guess at this point, I'll just leave that open for a second. Does any members of the virtual gallery here would like to address any items on the agenda whatsoever? I'm not seeing any. I'm going to go to our IT. Roberta, do you see anybody who's got their hand up virtually?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
Perfect. I'm going to go to our deputy clerk to see if there was any emails or correspondence from a member of the public prior to 4:30 p.m. today that needs to be read into the record. So do we have anything that needs to be read in the record, Madam Clerk?
I did not receive anything, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. I will note, I believe I just got a notice that Councilor Yonkers just stepped away for a quick wash and break. We have been going at this since 5:30. So for members of the public who are wondering why, I think nature just called. So he has stepped away. He's just made a note of that. So we're going to go on to consent items. All items listed below are considered to be routine and non-controversial and can be approved by one resolution. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member requests it, in which case the item will be removed from the consent resolution and considered immediately following the adoption of the remaining consent agenda items. Under P26-21, that the Planning and Building Environmental Committee be hereby approve the following consent items. Items 1 and 2 be and are hereby received for information with the following exceptions, which there's none currently, and then I'll read the items. A technical report number PD-24-2021, Valeria Holdings Inc. zoning bylaw amendment 1601-003-21, and 2 technical report PD-20-2021 Greek Association and Mars Homes Smithville West Inc. Official plan and zoning bylaw amendment 6659 Regional Road 20, file number 1701-001-21 OPA 1601-004-21 ZBA. With those being read, does anybody have anything they would like to pull? Councilor Trombetta?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can I pull item number 1?
Okay, number 1's being pulled. Is that the only item being pulled? All right. I'll at this point, I guess I need a mover. So I got Mayor Billsma and a seconder. Okay, I have Councilor Ganan's a seconder. So we're voting on just item number 2. All those in favor? And opposed? Okay, so that passes. So now we can go to item number 1, technical report PD-24-2021, Valeria, I can't pronounce it, Holdings Inc., apologies, zoning bylaw amendment 1601-003-21. Councilor Trombetta, you pulled this, so you get to speak to this first.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I could have asked this in the presentation, but I waited for it, I guess, now. I was just curious. I know they're actually proposing to build a couple of greenhouses. Just curious, and they did state that they have help, I guess, immigrant farmers coming in and helping out to do that stuff. What's being grown in these, what's proposed to be grown in these greenhouses, if I may, through you to either Mr. Treble or...
All right, I'll let...
I saw Jessica's hand there, so I don't know if she needs
I'll go to Jessica first. So Madam Clerk, would you like to address the question?
Sorry to interrupt. I'm not addressing the question, but I was hoping we could get a mover and a seconder for this item before a discussion.
All right, so I have, my apologies.
That's okay.
That was 6. So I'm assuming I have Councillor Trombetta. He pulled it, so I'm going to put him as a mover. Do we have a seconder? I have Councillor Ganan. And so now with Councillor Trombetta's question in mind, Director of Planning, do you have any response to the question there?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's my understanding that they grow mainly flowers and plants of that type. They are based right now on Bartlett Avenue in Beamsville, down towards the South Service Road, and this is an expansion of that plant. So from what I understand, actually you can go on site to the Foliera website and find the variety of different products that they grow, but they're pretty much all of a flower and plant nature.
Okay, Councillor.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. It'll be real quick. I see the mayor's hand here. So just for, and I know this is I'm going into an area that I kind of, might open up a can of worms, but I'm just saying, I understand it's flowers. In the future, through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Treble, if someone were to come in and buy this property, and obviously as the Liberal government has stated, the places to grow and grow through certain things, can that be transformed into these sort of properties eventually? Or they have to, a huge application process has to come. Like, it kind of just concerns me building big greenhouses for, in this community. And I'm just trying to protect from a little bit of the, how my standpoint is on the grow ops that we have, right? And the area. So I'm just curious, just throwing it out there, real quick answer. I know this is going into the areas that can be long, but just a quick answer here, please. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, a couple of pieces. I guess first, we have special provisions with respect to cannabis. So if this was to be converted to a cannabis operation, a rezoning would definitely have to come forward. In this case, we don't need to have a rezoning for just the greenhouse expansion. The only reason that we're having discussions tonight is that the number of employees that they have on site is more than the bylaw that we have currently contemplated. So the greenhouse piece would only require site plan approval, but because of the additional employees, that's where we need the rezoning in this case.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Treble.
Mayor Bylsma, then Councillor Yonker.
Yeah, so mine was a little bit more of a meeting organizational thing. The presenter had quite a few questions. She had a lot of questions about the process and what was happening this evening in the technical report. And I'm just wondering, is there like a standard form, or did she miss something? Because we don't normally get this kind of questioning. And so I'm just wondering, do they get handed a piece of paper which she filed, which explains next steps and stuff? Because we did tie up a fair bit of just talking about the process and such like that. So I'm just kind of curious, because if not, a lot of that could have been taken out of the meeting. So that's my question. It's more of a sundry nature.
Okay, I'll let the planner decide if he wants to speak to that.
Just really briefly through you, Mr. Chair. Garrett and Maddie can probably confirm further if we need to drill into it, but my understanding is we've been dealing with her agent more than her. So the agent probably was in the know, but maybe hadn't communicated completely.
Okay, no problem. Good, thank you.
So actually, just on that point, sorry, Councillor Yonker, I'll come to you in a real second here. Is there anything on our website that goes and breaks down like a step by any means? Like, are you aware of anything like that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have everybody go to a pre-consultation meeting. So in that pre-consultation meeting, it's all explained. Okay. And I'm thinking in this case, it was probably the agent once again that was at pre-con. Okay,
no, that's fine. Councillor Yonker.
No, the question was answered by, Councillor Trombretta brought it up. I guess just the one thing was, this is basically just an expansion of an existing greenhouse that they bought. And they're just expanding the greenhouse as well as adding more dwellings. Is that what you said through you, Mr. Chair, to the planner?
Through you, Mr. Chair, my understanding is there is greenhouse expansion proposed, but that's not part of what council needs to deliberate on.
Okay, Councillor Rayner.
Thank you. I think her frustration was that I got the feeling that she thought that this was it tonight and it's all over and we can proceed forward. She did not have an understanding of the political process and how long and dragged out it could be, because she said she's got workers coming and all the rest. I think she pushed this process a lot quicker, a lot faster than it turns out to be. And I think she was taken by surprise. And maybe her agent didn't keep her informed. Yeah, that's true. But it sure gave the impression tonight that there was a little bit of frustration there. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. It's quite a big mug there, Councillor Yonker. Not to get distracted there, but that cup you had, that was huge. Anyways, so at that point, is there any other questions? Sorry, a little distraction there. See. All right. So at this point, we had our mover, Councillor Trombetta, and I believe
Competing against Jason.
Oh, yeah, that's a big mug. And Councillor, I believe, is Ganan, I think was the seconder originally. So at this point, I'll call the question if there's no other questions. So all those in favor? Okay, that passes. Excellent. So moving forward, there's no communications tonight, so I'm going to move forward to a staff report, item P27-21, planner 1, Megan Burbick, and Director of Planning and Building, Brian Treble. Recommendation report BD-25-2021, Melissa Hill Inc., Stampak, amending site plan agreement authorizing bylaw, Thompson Road, file number 2100-0. Recommendation B, that report PD-25-2021 regarding Melissa Hill Inc., Stampak, amending site plan agreement dated March 8th, 2021 be received, and that a bylaw be passed to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign an amending site plan agreement with Melissa Inc. Stampak once all site plan details are substantially completed. Can I get a mover? Mayor Billsman and Councillor Yonker is my seconder. At this point, is there any questions? Is this the only time you turn your mic on? Is you gonna show the mug off?
Well, I thought I'd get a bigger mug. You guys were competing. This one came from Disney World in Florida. So there you go.
At least you're having some fun. Any other questions? Seeing none, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Okay, that passes. Moving to 11.2, item P28-2021, or sorry, 21, I should say, Planner 1, Megan Burbick, and Director of Planning and Building, Brian Treble. Recommendation report PD-26-2021, Kenneth Jack Martin zoning bylaw amendment. Recommendation B, that report PD-26-2021 regarding Kenneth Martin zoning bylaw amendment, file number 1601-001-21 dated March 8th, 2021 be received, and that section 3417 of the Planning Act apply, and that no further public meeting is required, and that an application for zoning bylaw amendment 1601-001-21 submitted by Kenneth Martin and the corresponding zoning bylaw be approved and passed, and that staff be authorized to circulate the notice of decision for a zoning bylaw amendment with the corresponding 20-day appeal period. Can I get a mover? Councillor Braderick, can I get a seconder? Mayor Billsma, any questions? Seeing none, I'm gonna, you got a question, Councillor Rayner? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, that passes, or that carries, I should say. Moving forward to item P29-21, Planner 2, Madison Edsel, and Director of Planning and Building, Brian Treble. Recommendation report PD-23-2021, William and Kathleen Vitucci, zoning bylaw amendment, file number 1601-002-21, and the recommendation there be that report PD-23-2021 regarding William and Kathleen Vitucci zoning bylaw amendment, file number 1601-002-21 dated March 8th, 2021 be received, and that section 3417 of the Planning Act apply, and that no further public meeting is required, and that an application for the zoning bylaw amendment 1601-002-21 submitted by William and Kathleen Vitucci and a corresponding zoning bylaw amendment be approved and passed, and that staff be authorized to circulate the notice of decision for the zoning bylaw amendment with the corresponding 20-day appeal period. And can I get a mover? Councillor Braderick again, and second will be Councillor Trombetta. At this point, any questions or comments? Not seeing any, I'm going to call the vote. All those in favor?
Board.
Excellent, that carries. So moving to bylaw enforcement officer, so P 30-21, bylaw enforcement officer Tiana Dominic and director of planning and building Brian Treble. Recommendation report PD-31-2021, approval of a new prohibited parking signage to control and regulate parking and vehicular traffic on Culver Street, Wade Road, Culver Street, Barbara Street, and Smithville Public School. Recommendation there be that report PD-31-2021 regarding recommendation report approval of a new prohibited parking signage to control and regulate parking and vehicular traffic at Culver Street / Wade Road, Culver Street / Barbara Road, and Smithville Public School, dated March 8, 2021, be received, and that the proposed signage found in attachment 1 of this report be approved and installed, and that bylaw 89/2000 be amended by adding to Schedule C a new restriction as identified on the attachment Schedule C, and that the second attachment to this bylaw represent the newly consolidated Schedule C to insert into 89/2000. Can I get a mover? Councilor Trombetta, seconder. I'll go with Mayor Bilsma. Any questions? Not seeing any. All those in favor?
Or
Okay, that carries. So moving forward, item P31-21, Chief Building Official John Shumwell and Director of Planning and Building Brian Treble. Recommendation report PD-33-2021, Building Fees Bylaw Review. Recommendation Port B. That report PD-33-2021 regarding recommendation report building fees bylaw review dated March 8, 2021 be received, and that a public meeting be held for the purpose of presenting up to a 15% increase in building fees prior to the passage of a new bylaw. Can I get a mover? Councilor Ganand, seconder Councilor Yonker. Any questions, comments? Not hearing any. All those in favor? Okay, that passes. All those opposed? Okay, not hearing any. So that still passes. Moving forward to item P32-21, Director of Planning and Building Brian Treble. Recommendation report PD-22-2021, naming of Regional Road 14 from Canberra Street to 20 Road intersection as Town Line Road. Recommendation B, that report PD-22-2021 regarding recommendation report naming of a Regional Road 14 from Canberra Street to the 20 Road intersection as Town Line Road dated March 8th, 2021 be received, and that committee and council commit to the name Town Line Road such that staff may order sign blades and notify property owners, and that a bylaw to be passed to name the street identified in Schedule A Town Line Road, but that such bylaw not take effect until sign blades have been installed. And I have an and there at the end, so I don't know if that's supposed to be an and there, but that's all I have on my side. So can I get a mover? I have Mayor Bilsma and Councilor Braderick as my seconder. Any questions or comments? Before we go forward, I just want to confirm with the clerk at the end of recommendation 3, it has an and. Is that supposed to be there? Am I missing something, or is that just a rogue and?
Mr. Chair, I only see that as well.
Okay.
I don't know if that's supposed to be there. I can investigate further, but I'm going to say that it's just added.
So whatever we're voting on tonight will only be the 3, and should that be discovered later, that would have to be voted on separately. So and I just ask one more time, any questions or comments? Not seeing any. I'll call the question. All those in favor?
No.
And opposed?
Opposed.
All right, that carries. All right, your opposed is noted. Thank you. All right, so moving to 11.7, item P33-21, Director of Planning and Building Brian Treble, re-recommendation report PD-30-2021, proposal to commence street naming consultation process for Griffin Street North and Griffin Street South, Regional Road 14, and the recommendation B, that report PD-3021 or 2021 regarding the recommendation report, proposal to commence street naming consultation process for Griffin Street North and Griffin Street South, Regional Road 14, dated March 8th, 2021 be received, and that staff be authorized to commence the street naming notification and consultation process. Can I get a mover? Councilor Braderick, can I get a seconder? I have Councilor Trombetta. Any questions or comments? Not seeing any. All those, oh, Councilor Yonker, do you have a question? Okay, all right, so all those in favor? Okay. And opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, so that passes, that carries. So moving to 11.8, item P3421, Director of Planning and Building Brian Treble, recommendation report PD-27-2021, requirement of encroachment agreement needed for existing building encroachment at 104 McMurtry Lane. And the recommendation there be that report PD-27-2021 regarding the recommendation report requirement of encroachment agreement needed for existing building encroachment at 104 McMurtry Lane dated March 8th, 2021 be received, and that a bylaw be passed to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign an encroachment agreement to recognize the existing encroachment on Part 2, 30R 13451 being part of Lot 23, Plan M92. Can I get a mover? Got Councilor Gannon and a seconder. Councilor Yonker. Any questions or comments? I might actually go to the Director of Planning if maybe he wants to just kind of explain a real quick reason for this. I know this kind of came up in pre-agenda, so I don't mean to put you on the spot there, Brian, but if you could just a little bit for even the public who have joined to understand what's happened here.
Sure, through you, Mr. Chair. The property in question was severed from the old Hodgkins hardware store on the corner of McMurtry and Griffin downtown back about 10 years ago or thereabouts. A minor variance was done at the time to recognize the building as having a 0 setback to the front lot line, which is McMurtry now. And there's a survey that's recently been done that's confirmed that in fact, the building encroaches something like 3.5 inches onto McMurtry Lane. It's very small, 9 centimeters. However, it was enough to actually scuttle a sale that was imminent here in the last week or so. So unfortunately, the encroachment of 9 centimeters was enough to cause concern. So we're trying to get that rectified. My understanding is the building has been there forever. It's not like there was any new addition that was just put on there. This is historic. So we're just recognizing a historic situation.
Thank you. Anybody have any other questions? Okay, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? And opposed? All right, that carries.
Mr. Chair.
Go for it.
My apologies, sir. The report where you had the rogue and.
Yes.
There is, I don't know how we deal with this. We'll have to call the secretary or the clerk in, I guess, but on page 126, there was a 4th clause that was part of the recommendation that says that that staff notify all residents and agencies affected by this bylaw of council's decision and the timeline of implementation. Further, that should costs be incurred by the public as a result of this change, that such costs with receipts to a maximum of $100 may be submitted to the township and will be charged to the 911 PERS capital account. I'm not sure how that got dropped off, sir.
Yeah, I was going from the agenda there. So, okay, Mayor Billsma, if you'd like to.
I'll simply move that as an addition to that item. And if we get a second or vote on it, and as long as there's no controversy, then the clerk can just bring that up. So I'll move that as an addition to that previous item.
So my only question is, can we do that right now, or do we have to bring that in? We do have to bring that item back as a new item. Like right now, we're not in anything. Right now, it's just kind of, we're rogue of anything in motion here. So how do we?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So because the recommendation was actually there, it was just dropped from the agenda for some strange reason. If it's okay with the original mover and seconder, because it's already there, if it's okay with just those two, like I don't believe we'd have to bring it back to the table because it's already been passed.
Okay.
So as long as the mover and seconder are still okay with moving and seconding that motion, and it still carries. So
okay, so I'll read this. So do we need to, just to confirm, I'm not trying to make this more difficult than it needs to be. Do we need to have a mover and seconder to bring this back up for discussion and then vote on it? Or can we just, you're saying we can just, as long as we have a mover and seconder, we can just vote on adding this to that item?
Yes.
Okay.
So again, I will have to investigate why it got dropped to the agenda because it is in the recommendation.
Yeah, I'm seeing it now on the page 125 here.
Yes, so again, as long as the mover and seconder are okay with that added clause that was already there and everybody is okay, we can carry it.
Do we have to go with the original mover and seconder, or can it be any mover and
Yes.
seconder?
Yes,
original?
both the original mover and
So
seconder.
can you
Yes.
just clarify for the record who the original mover and seconder were?
It was Mayor and Councillor Bradrick.
Okay, so I'm going to read this and then we're going to confirm that. So we have that staff notify all residents and agency affected by the bylaw, this bylaw, of council's decision in the timeline of implementation. Further, that should costs be incurred by the public as a result of this change, that such costs with receipts to a maximum of $100 may be submitted to the township and will be charged the 911 PERS capital account. So the Mayor Bilsma and Councilor Bradrick, do you have any problems adding that to?
None whatsoever. None whatsoever.
Excellent. And then I will just recall that question with that now in part of that resolution. All those in favor? All right, opposed? All right, that carries. All right, thank you for catching that, Director. All right, so just give me a quick second here. Let's see if I can. Okay, so that the last one before we had to go back to that, we just passed the McMurtry item, which was P3421. So moving on to other business under 12.1, item P3521, Director of Planning and Building, Brian Treble, Gipsy Moth update, verbal update. So Brian, I'll give you the floor.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. I think probably everyone on this meeting is aware that gypsy moth is anticipated to be a big issue this coming spring. Certainly in the Caister area of West Lincoln, it was bad last year, and so the residents out there are quite concerned. The township staff have been working to facilitate connecting anyone that has an interest in dealing with gypsy moth to, we link them up with Trees Unlimited, Mr. Paul Robertson of Trees Unlimited, who is working on coordinating a spray program again this year. I have had discussions with Mr. Robertson. He is getting ready. There are 1,200 landowners that have reached out to him and expressed interest. So this is a big undertaking. He has enough spray right now to cover about 3,000 acres of woodlot, but he's also looking into other sources of spray. Like last year, he anticipates there'll be a shortage of spray, but he's doing his darndest to make another spray happen this spring. The cost of the spray per acre is estimated to be the same as last year at $110 per acre that is sprayed. And he will be sending out correspondence to all 1,200 people on his contact list. I thought it was to actually go out the end of last week. I haven't seen it yet, but it'll happen soon because he has a deadline of April 2nd for people to sign up. And the mapping of how the spray is going to happen will be put together shortly after that. So he's gearing up. Just wanted to make sure everyone here was in the loop. The budget that you passed included money for us to help offset his advertising costs and any of those kind of costs, as well as spray any of our properties that are identified as having gypsy moth problems at the time of the program. So at this point, Mr. Chair, that's the update I can give you, and I'll keep you informed as spring unfolds.
I'll go to Councilor Rayner and then Councilor Trombetta.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Gypsy moth last year were wicked. Actually, I had it done twice and it still didn't, the trees were still stripped. It was absolutely unbelievable. And I expect this year, as Brian said, is going to be absolutely unreal. There's a lot of oak, especially white oak, along property lines and stuff. And they just go crazy. They strip the trees in a matter of days. So anyways, through Mr. Treble, you said April 2nd is the deadline. I have not received anything from him yet with regards to joining up for this year, but it should be coming shortly.
Through you, my understanding is that it will be coming imminently, yes. And as soon as we receive information, we're also going to post it to our website for the public to be able to access the applications and everything as well. He's working with us, and we agreed to do everything we can to help communicate the program out to the public.
Oh, that's good. That's good. A couple years ago, he was spraying in my area and he had to refuel and load up again. So they backed the truck onto my property. And it's funny how they fuel the helicopter with the pesticide. They lower the helicopter to the top of the truck. Helicopter sits on the top of the truck and they pump the stuff into the helicopter and then the helicopter leaves. It's so hilarious to see a helicopter sitting on top of a truck. But anyways, it's quite the process. And it's really badly needed in Caister. I don't know why Caister always seems to be the worst area, but maybe because it's got more oak. I'm not sure, but it seems to get hammered every year. And the last few years have been really, really bad. So anyways, thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Councillor. So Councillor Trombetta?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Treble. I guess the spraying took place last year in May, I think it was. And then the slurry of phone calls happened, I guess, in the hot summer in July into August. And that by that time, when we took all the phone calls, we noticed that the program was over and we were trying to reach out to some other sources to see if some people could help. Is there always have to be a certain time to spray and that's it? Because again, to minimize the problem that we had last year, again, like I was getting more than usual phone calls for gypsy moth, especially in my area, especially around, between Caisterville and Caister Center, they were just, tons of people were just calling. I was shocked. So is there a way of delaying the spray a bit? Maybe to kind of, because I don't know if it was a hotter summer, if that's why we had such a bad gypsy moth. What is it? I'm trying to figure out through you, Mr. Chair.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I will profess that I am not an expert in the gypsy moth spray program at all. Somebody on the panel might be able to speak to it better, but my understanding is there's a certain stage in the larva cycle or whatever cycle that you have to spray and get them at a certain stage in the process. So I think waiting to the summer would be too late.
Well,
there'll be a window in the spring when it's ideal.
Well, I thank you through you, Mr. Chair, again to Mr. Treble. I get there is a certain time frame, but obviously that time frame, I don't think it really was achievable last year. Everybody was saying, well, more just grew and we didn't have enough. Was that really the case? Or is there a timing thing, or what was it?
Well, through you, Mr. Chair, my understanding is that the gypsy moth migrate, and I don't think people realized that they had migrated into the Caister area as in quite as severe a numbers until it was too late. They were there and people started noticing because I think they were falling out of the trees on top of them. And by that point it was too late. So there's always a bit of a migration pattern. But my understanding is that Paul is working closely with the Ministry of Natural Resources and the Conservation Authority, and they're doing their darndest to kind of predict. He is indicating that the worst seems to be Silver Street South. In the peninsula, it's Silver Street and South.
Yeah, and that's the areas where I got a lot of phone calls from: Caister Center, Silver Street South into Caisterville. Okay, I don't know. I guess just hopefully it's not as bad this year as it was last year. Thank you for that.
So I'm going to go to Councillor Rayner because I think he wanted to provide some context to your question.
I'm no expert on this, but I'm certainly aware of having spoken to Paul when he was spraying in my property and everything else. It's a certain stage of the caterpillar that they have to hit it. And once it gets past that, then it turns into the gypsy moth itself. They want to get it before it gets to that point. So there's only a certain time period where they can spray. They're also really restricted by the weather because Caister does have a lot of wind out here and they can't spray well when it's windy out. So that creates a problem. And like I said, it was so bad like last year. The only other alternative I got a hold of somebody else, Arborwood, and they do spraying too. But what they do is they put it in a tank, they bring it out and they spray it on the tree like a fire hose. So I had these big hoses trying to get to the top of the oak trees, just absolutely saturating the tree with this pesticide that's in their water. So I had a double dose on it and it still didn't get it 100%. In fact, when the caterpillars were really bad in May, my house is like 250 feet from the closest oak tree. I had caterpillars all over the house, all over the porch, everything. They are so light, and that's how they move around, and they go through one wood lot after another. And I didn't realize it so clearly until last year. The wind picks them up, and they just float, and they just go from one place to the next. And before you know it, they've gone 10 miles, and they've gone through every wood lot. And it's hard to believe, but I had literally thousands of caterpillars around my house, and there's no trees around my house. They were just blown from the trees 250 feet to the west of me because the wind was coming out of the southwest. So they're a really, really a serious threat. The only thing in nature that kills them is if when they're in the caterpillar stage, if you have frost. And we had that early in 1990 when it was really bad, when I lived on Yonge Street, just north of Smithville, on a farm there. And we had bad caterpillars, and we had a frost one day. It wiped them out. They were totally gone. They didn't survive at all. But with climate warming and all the rest that we've got right now, the chances of this occurring again in May are getting slimmer every year. And it hasn't really happened since 1990 or 91 when we had that little cold snap for a day or two, and that cleaned them right out. But it doesn't take them long to reproduce again. But I agree, south of Silver Street and Caister, it's really, really bad. And I don't know if the spraying can get them all this time. All it does is knock them down to try to get them under control. But it's frustrating. You see these beautiful trees, and all of a sudden, every day you start to see through them. And next thing you know, they look like they're a tree in the wintertime. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. Anyways, hope that helps you.
Thank you. Anybody else with any other questions? Councilor Broderick?
Thank you. Through you, Chair, to Director Brian Treble. Is there any way that we can support getting the information out to the community? I see on the webpage, it's asking for residents to email the planning department. Is that still the mode of, or the method of contact?
Through you, Mr. Chair, for now, yes, if they were to email planning@westlincoln.ca, we will put them in touch with Paul Robertson directly. And certainly as soon as the material is out in terms of the timelines and the application forms and the costs and all of that, that'll be on the website as well. And I will share that with all of you guys when it comes out so that you guys are in the know as well with respect to that.
Great, thank you.
Excellent. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Anybody else? Not seeing, I'll just mention a brief comment here. Yeah, I know last year we had a lot of people reach out in frustration because of actually more the shortage, I think, than anything else and the overwhelmness of it. I guess my question is not so much a question, but maybe just a thought. If staff, when the time comes to put that information on the website, can we also maybe put that on our social media, even if it's just through the Twitter that can be shared by other members of council? Anything related to that? Because I think, in an efficient way, we can probably share some of that widespread news, but I think also understanding the time frame of trying to combat this is an issue. I know the region has probably, if I'm not mistaken, and Mr. Mayor can correct me, well, they just passed not too long ago a bylaw to deal with forestry or something to deal with protecting trees. And I feel like down the road, this is something that we can probably work more in partnership with them. And so right now, if we can get the information out and then try to figure out how to battle this even on a cost perspective, because it's a big expense for, I think, and I'm, digging down deep here for my memory here, recalling, but I know there's several people who couldn't even afford to do it. I think it was just so expensive. The little bit of money we contribute even to the municipality was to help offset some of the administration stuff, but it was still a very small impact when people were spending, upwards of, I don't know, $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000. I think some of the numbers were throwing at me. So if we can somehow get the region on board to help with that, that might also help us generate maybe even a bigger supply of it. Because I think last year was a lack of supply more than even just the timing. So anyways, just thought I'd make that note. So other than that, I'm not seeing anything else. That was just a verbal update. So we're going to move on to item P3621. And this is, again, Director of Planning and Building, Brian Treble, and it's a redevelopment charge bylaw LPAT update. So Brian, the floor is yours.
This is through you, Mr. Chair. This is just a really quick update to advise that the settlement that was reached with the appellants, the Home Builders Association, with respect to the development charges bylaw, was originally scheduled to be heard on April the 19th. But I wanted everyone to know that we received notice about a week and a half ago that the hearing, the settlement hearing, will happen now on March the 15th. So that's next Monday at, where'd I put it? 10 in the morning, at 10 in the morning next Monday, and it's a teleconference. So we will be participating by teleconference to get a settlement of the development charges appeal.
Excellent. Thank you. Any questions from any members of the committee? Not seeing any, so we're going to move forward to 12.3 because that was a verbal update as well. Director of Planning and Building, Brian Treble, Sandra Gibson, LPAT update, another verbal update. So Brian, the floor is yours.
Through you, Mr. Chair, this is just an update to advise that on February the 18th, the LPAT issued a decision with respect to the Sandra Gibson application for rezoning, and has approved Sandra Gibson's application for a cannabis operation on the property at 9003 Concession 5 Road in Caister Centre, and has ordered that the clerk for the township issue a bylaw number for the bylaw that was attached to the decision. So that file is now closed as a result of the order of the board.
Okay. Any questions or comments from anyone? Not seeing any. Thank you for the update. Moving to item 12.4, item P38-21, Councillor Yonker, Regional Municipality of Niagara, Police Service Board, Medical Cannabis Grow Operations, Public Safety Concerns, recommendation that the correspondence received from the Regional Municipality of Niagara Police Services Board regarding medical cannabis grow operations, public safety concerns attached as Appendix A be received and supported, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Niagara's MPs, MPPs, and Niagara 12 local municipalities. And so can I get a mover? I have Councillor Gannon. And do we lose Councillor Yonker? Oh, no, he's down at the bottom. I'll give Councillor Yonker as well as his motion, so I'll give him the second. And then I'll let Councillor Yonker, you can start speaking to this first.
Yeah, basically, when I seen this come through our emails, I thought, yeah, this is good to see here. It's good to see that the police are reaching out to the federal government as well with these concerns, because we do have a concern. In our municipality, when I drive the boundary road between Ward 1 and Ward 2, the wind is blowing some smell across from Ward 1 into Ward 2. And I just thought we should support the police in this and also just bring it back to the forefront again. So in the amendment there, it's just said that we share it with our local MPs as well as the 12 municipalities. But I think I would like to see that we also send it to the original, who the police sent it to the Minister of Federal Health as well, so that it's on comes to him as well, again, as a reminder that there's a major problem that these municipalities are dealing with. And I just wanted to show our support to the police as well, that they're, and actually thank them for writing this letter, right? So I don't know if we want to even add some more of, at the bottom of the letter, there was Minister of Public Health and Emergency, Minister of Justice and Attorney General. I don't know if we want to add all those in there again. It might be a good idea, but I'm fine with just the Minister of Health. I think that's who deals with this the most, would it not be? I guess, yeah.
I would assume you're correct, as well as, public health there, but maybe, we can come back, we'll circle back to that, let everybody speak. So I see Mayor Bylsma, he might have an idea here. So I'll go to Mayor Bylsma.
Yeah, so thank you, Councillor Jonker, for bringing this forward. And, I too echo all those comments. I was looking forward to actually speaking on this, because I think it's the first time that I've seen some advocacy from someone other than our neighbors and other municipalities have gone through this, and especially the comment, and I know Councillor Gannon spoke a lot about this in the previous term, but the comment about 500 plants for personal use, and then some of that was, we acknowledged at that time was quite ridiculous. And so we were speaking the truth, and we were speaking what was right and commonsensical, and the police have picked up on that. The Police Services Board has picked up on that, wrote it down in a letter, and asked the federal government to review this, which I think is appropriate, because obviously it's a new concept for our police and for our municipalities to deal with, being only 2 or 3 years old. And of course, there was a lot of bugs in the system that still need to be worked out. And I don't think we should let our foot off the gas simply because the perception may be that these things are all settled, because they are not. And so it's good that this is forward at the time. So I'm very much in favor of it. And that's all, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Ganaan?
I'm very happy to speak to this as well. I was delighted to see this come forward, because this is a very kind of thing that we fought, as the mayor alluded to, in the last term of council, whereby we had a property and it was being claimed that there would be 4 individual growers and somebody was growing for them. Bottom line is, it was thousands of square feet of property that they were going to end up using. Fortunately for us, we kept up the fight long enough that they eventually walked away, but we know that this is happening everywhere. We know that other municipalities are having the same fight. So I think it's also a great thing that the police have taken on this challenge, because they also are having difficulty trying to enforce when municipalities call on them to enforce. And so, yeah, and anywhere else that Councillor Jonker wants to send it, I will still support the motion. And I think that we should just keep this circulating and make sure that we continue to keep pressing this issue until something is done about giving municipalities a say in at least seeing the licenses that are supposedly being granted, and taking a look at some of those numbers, because we know the numbers are far-fetched and more often than not. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
No problem. Any other questions? I'll just say something here. I agree. I think, seeing the police boards step up at this point, I think is the voice we didn't have last time, even the council before mine, and even as we kind of dealt with it ourselves at the beginning of this council, to be able to have them be more or less an advocate for improving how this is regulated and how this is treated is very important. I think at this point, I'll go back to Councillor Jonker as far as what he would like to be included in terms of circulation. I think at this point we might want to be interested in adding public health as well as the Minister of Health as well. So I would consider putting those 2 on. I don't know. I don't have the email in front of me that we originally saw, but I don't know if there's anything else that you wanted to add on to that, but that would be my suggestion. But it's up to you, Councillor Jonker, who you'd like to add to this.
Yeah, if I can just speak to that. If you look at the bottom of the letter that was shared, that the Police Service Board sent, if they could just copy the same as on the bottom of that letter, right? I don't know if we need to read all these names out. If they can just, we don't need to, yeah, I guess we could send it out to the same list again, right? That's on the bottom of their letter.
I'll go to the clerk. So Madam Clerk, how exactly would you like this to be written in the friendly amendment to include all the original individuals who were originally emailed? How would we phrase that?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So to make sure that everyone is aware of what they are moving, I would suggest that we add exactly what Councillor Jonker is wanting to add to the amendment. So if you would like me to add the Minister of Health, we have all the MPs and MPPs, so a lot of the names that are already addressed are on the original recommendation, resolution. So I believe the only ones we would have to add is the Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness, the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Canada, as well as the Niagara Regional Police Service Board.
Okay. Now, if I understood correctly, you cut out a little bit there, but I'm wondering if on the section 2 just says forwarded to Niagara's MPs and MPPs. Should Niagara be removed then? Is that what I'm understanding? If you want it sent to everybody, is that what I'm understanding, Councillor Jonker? Sorry.
No, it doesn't need to be sent to all the MPPs, just to what the clerk read.
Okay.
And the original letter went to the Minister of Health. And then on the bottom, we add the Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness, the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Canada. And then the MPs are listed as well. Then the Deputy Premier and Minister of Health, Ontario, the Attorney General of Ontario, the Minister of the Solicitor General of Ontario. And then the 4 MPs are already on there. And then I think that's it.
Okay. So
Just remove our own ourselves, and then the rest could go almost as it is, right?
yes, that's what I'm thinking as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So that being the case, I think we all understand what's being asked here. Is there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I guess I can call the question. Go ahead, Mr. Mayor. Oh, sorry.
He's ready to vote.
I know, all those in favor? Yeah, and I'll vote as well.
Where do you think it's going?
That passes. And so at this point, it brings us to item P39-21, members of committee, re-business matters of informative nature. So I have Mayor Bylsma up first.
So I just wanted to say on behalf of council, I guess, so I'll put my mayor's hat on for a moment and just say happy International Women's Day. We have 2 fantastic counselors, and we have fantastic staff. So just an acknowledgement of International Women's Day and the fantastic work that's been done by our female complement. So thank you very much. That's all.
Any other comments or questions from anyone? Not seeing any. I did want to mention something as well. I echo the mayor's sentiments there and comments there as well. I think it's considering when the first recognition of Women's International Day took place in 1911, and 110 years later, here we are. If anything, how far have we actually come? Have we come far enough? I don't think so. I think 110 years later, how is there still a gap? And so I don't think enough can be done. I think we, as a community, as people, we just gotta do the best we can to ensure that everyone's treated fairly and equally. And one day certainly isn't enough. And sometimes these kind of things, it sounds great to show our support today. Today's the day everyone shows support. I think we got to do a better job as a society to show our support every day and ensure that equality truly becomes front center of all that. That being said, on a different note, I did want to mention that the fort, for those who were aware, the fort had their reveal video from Holmes Family Effect there, and I got a chance to watch that. I'm sure other members of council probably got a chance to watch it too. Definitely a very powerful piece. Incredible to see what they actually were working with and dealing with as a organization trying to help the youth, and how unfortunate that place was before the gift and opportunity from Family Home Effects, Mike's Homes and his children and everybody who came out to really flip that around. I thought I was kind of like blown away by how much of an investment that was actually put into it, and that was donated, not just by Mike's Home and his crew and his family themselves, but also all the corporate sponsors. I gave upwards of almost $400,000 in services and features and everything in between. And what an incredible facility. I know back on December, I think it was December 19th in 2019, it feels like ages ago was when we got a chance to be a part of kind of like a little bit of a sneak peek, but to be able to see it all put together in a beautifully polished up 40-minute TV segment, I thought was just, it was just a reflection of how fortunate our community is, and how incredible our community is, and how we kind of rally together. And I thought this was just an incredible opportunity for these kids in this organization and for our community to have this kind of investment. It was, if you haven't had a chance to see it, go on, I think it's on CUTV, and get a chance to watch the episode. It's very moving, very emotional as well. And you really, hear some incredible stories that come from some, kind of residents that live in our community, children, or more specifically what they've gone through and how important that really is to them and also other members of our community. So anyways, Councilor Ganane, I saw your hand
Well,
up.
I just wanted to add that further to what you're saying, that was a wonderful gift, absolutely. But prior to that, the fort had been set up in an old trailer that was just on the fairgrounds of the old arena grounds. And so the first original wonderful donation was from the Smithville United Church, who gave that old building over to Fort for their use. It was at one point the Lawn Bowling Club, and it was the Kinsman Club of West Lincoln for a while. They met there. And so that original gift of our giving community, sort of predates even the wonderful sprucing up that the Holmes family gave to it. So I just want to acknowledge that the Smithville United Church also made that original donation, and actually were very involved in bringing that together. Once it was suggested, they did a lot of work to actually bring it to that point. The video made it look like the Holmes guys just kind of got on board right away, but there was some negotiations going on there with the church and to do with their property. So I just think that they also need to have a little bit of credit at this time for that. So that's all.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you bringing that in, because you don't always see the full picture when we get to just see the polish. I know online they had some clips of some other moments and some familiar faces, and the church and members of the church that were helping prepare the lunches and were feeding the crew during that whole thing. That didn't actually get included in the final edit, and that's just how these things work out. Some things get left on the cutting room floor, but then they use these social media and the internet to kind of show other glimpse of other people who are I would say, fundamental in the process. And so, I appreciate, even a little bit of that history there, because I don't know the whole history of how the fort came to be. And, what a wonderful opportunity to begin with, and to be able to get the facelift it finally needed, and to keep that support and that, getting those kids that chance. I thought, words escape me. It was just an incredible, a gift all around. And, we have so many wonderful community members that, really make it in a difference that are going to last a lifetime for many people. So anyways, that being said, I'm going to go one more round. Any other comments or questions from anyone? Not seeing any. So I'm going to bring up new business, only items that require immediate attention or direction, and must first approve a motion to introduce a new item of business be at this moment. So do I have any new items? No, not seeing any, seeing lots of no's. And so at this point, I'm going to call the adjournment at 8:13 p.m. So thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful night. And I guess, see you next week.
Yeah.